Role of commercial banks in economic development. Now let us see the role of commercial banks in economic development. Again, this is very important question. This question is asked in the public exam as well as revision exams also last year. It comes under part D, page number 123. 35th question. Explain the role of commercial banks in economic development. So if that question is asked, explain the role of commercial banks in economic development, you need to write all this. You have to have all these side headings. The role of commercial banks in economic development, you have to write all the 8 side headings. In case if this question is asked as a 3 marks question, list out the role of commercial banks, then it is enough if you write only the side headings. Sometimes even in 2 marks questions, they will ask 1 or 2 side headings. Write a note on capital formation of the commercial banks, or write about how employment is generated by the commercial banks in an economy. So if it is asked like that, accordingly you have to change your answer and write. So this is 35th question. Explain the role of commercial banks in economic development. The answer is found on page number 100. If you turn your textbooks to page number 100, it will be easy for you to follow. So the role of commercial banks in economic development can be given under 8 heads. Capital formation, creation of credit, channelizing the funds, encouraging right type of industries, bank monetized debt, finance to government, employment generation, and bank promote entrepreneurship. If it is asked as a 5 marks questions, you have to write all the side headings, all the 8 side headings, and under each side heading you can write 3 or 4 sentences. So the first one, capital formation. Bank plays an important role in capital formation, which is essential for the economic development of the country. Banks mobilize small savings of the people scattered over a wide area through the network of branches all over the country and make it available for productive purposes. So what does the bank do? Nowadays, if you take a bank, it is not only in city. Banks are not found only in cities. Banks are found even in villages and small towns. In all the area, you have small branches, at least small branches you have. So it is easy for the people to save money in the banks. Instead of having idle cash at home, people tend to go and save money in the bank because they also get an interest and they also get so many incentives. It is so attractive. So instead of having cash at home or using the cash for some other purpose, people try to save money in the bank. So banks mobilize the small savings of people scattered over a wide area through their network of branches all over the country. So throughout India, you have so many branches which are spread across the country, and it makes it available for productive purposes. So they get savings from the people and they give it as loan to some other entrepreneur or a businessman, and they do some productive jobs, or it is used for productive purposes. So that is the first one. If the banks do not perform this function, savings either remain idle with the people or people start creating assets like gold and some other asset they start buying. So if this function of the bank is not available, what do people do? They try to save money and keep it idly at home. ஒருவேளை பேங்க்ஸில் வந்து சேவ் பண்ணுற அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் இல்லை, பேங்க்கில் போய் நம்மளால் சேவ் பண்ண முடியாது, பேங்க்கில் போய் பத்திரமா வைக்க முடியாதுன்னு அந்த ஃபங்க்ஷன் இல்லாமல் இருந்தால் வீட்லேயே எல்லோரும் பணத்தை வச்சுப்பாங்க. அது அந்த பணத்தை வச்சு என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, வேறு ஏதாவது ஒரு இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் கூட பண்ணுவாங்க, கோல்டு வாங்கிடுவாங்க, அது வேறு எதையாவது ஒன்று வாங்கிடுவாங்க, சேவ் பண்ண மாட்டாங்க. சேவிங்ஸ் இருந்தால் தான் நாட்டில் ஏதாவது ஒரு ப்ரொடக்டிவ் பர்பஸை ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண முடியும். செகண்ட் ஒன் இஸ் கிரியேஷன் ஆஃப் கிரெடிட். Banks create credit for the purpose of providing more funds for development and projects. Banks are creating credit for giving more funds for development projects. Credit creation leads to increased production. When there is credit creation, it leads to increase in the production, which leads to the increase in employment, then it leads to increase in the income, there will be increase in sales, and thereby they bring about faster economic development. So because of the creation of credit, there is faster economic development in the country. Channelizing the funds. What do you mean by channelizing the funds? When you go to a village or some other part of country, apart from in Chennai also they have Red Hills or Pundi Reservoir, they have dams. Then how is the water from the dams taken to the paddy fields? They cut channels. கால்வாய் வெட்டி வச்சுருப்பாங்க. தண்ணி அப்படியே திறந்து விட்டால் எங்கேயாவது ஓடிடும். அதே இது கால்வாய் வெட்டி சேனலாக வச்சுருந்தோன்னா கரெக்டாக அந்த கால்வாய் வழியாக தண்ணி எந்த இடத்துக்கு போகணுமோ அங்கே போய் சேரும். அதே மாதிரி தான் பேங்க்ஸ் சேனலைஸ் த ஃபண்ட்ஸ். சேவிங்ஸ்க்கு மட்டும் கிடையாது. பேங்க் இஸ் நாட் அ பிளேஸ் டு சேவ் ஒன்லி ஆர் மணி. இப்போ டேம் வந்து தண்ணியை ஸ்டோர் பண்ணி வைக்கும். அந்த ஸ்டோர் பண்ணி வச்ச தண்ணியை வந்து சேனல் வழியாக அனுப்புகிற மாதிரியே பேங்க்கும் என்ன பண்ணுது, சேவ் பண்ண பணத்தை கரெக்டான எந்த ப்ரொடக்டிவ் பர்பஸ்க்கு யூஸ் பண்ணோம், அது எது வந்து டெவலப்மெண்ட்க்கு யூஸ் பண்ணுமோ அந்த இடத்துக்கு சேனலைஸ் பண்ணுறாங்க. தட் இஸ் ஒன்லி கால்ட் அஸ் சேனலைசிங் த ஃபண்ட்ஸ். Banks invest the savings mobilized by them for productive purposes. Capital formation is not the only function of the commercial banks. What do they do with the pooled savings? The pooled savings should be allocated to various sectors of the economy with a view to increase the productivity. It is not enough if the money is saved in the bank. The saved money or the pooled money must be used for some productive purpose. Then only it can be said to have performed an important role in the economic development. So savings alone is not a good function. Along with savings, whatever they save, they have to channelize the funds in the right direction. Next one is encouraging right type of industries. So the banks should not give loans to all the industries. யார் வந்து கேட்டாலும் நான் லோன் கொடுக்குறேன், whether it is a good industry or a bad one, whether it is for the development, அதெல்லாம் பார்க்காம எல்லாருக்கும் கொடுக்கறது இல்லை. It encourages only right type of industries. Banks help in the development of the right type of industries by extending loan to right type of person. This is very important. It gives to the right person. It gives to the right type of industries. They help not only for industrialization of the country but also for the economic development of the country. They grant, the banks grant loans, they give advances to manufacturers whose products are in great demand. They give to industries whose products are for great demand. அத்தியாவசியமான பொருட்கள் செய்கிறதுக்கு எந்த பொருட்கள்லாம் ரொம்ப டிமாண்ட் இருக்கோ அந்த மாதிரி இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸ்க்கு ஃபஸ்ட்டு லோன் கொடுப்பாங்க. Manufacturers in turn, what do? They increase the products by increasing new methods of production. So they give employment to more number of people. So there is more production, more employment, more income, more savings. Okay, so the national income of the country also increases. So the banks encourage right type of industries. Bank monetize debt. Commercial banks transform the loan to be repaid after a certain period into cash which can be immediately used for business activities. If all the business transaction is done only by loan, nobody will have money. So sometimes what the bank does it, what do you mean by banks monetize debt? These loans are converted to cash. லோன்லேயே ஃபேக்ட்ரி ஓடிட்டே இருந்தால் நல்லா இருக்காது. அப்போ சம்டைம்ஸ் என்ன பண்ணுறாங்க, பேங்க்ஸ் மணி கொடுக்குறாங்க இன்ஸ்டெட் ஆஃப் லோன். இப்போ வந்து நான் ஒருத்தர்கிட்ட ஒரு பொருள் வாங்குகிறேன், கடனுக்கு வாங்கியிருக்கேன். பேங்க் என்ன பண்ணுது, அந்த கடனுக்கு வாங்கின அந்த காசை வந்து பேங்க் அவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்குது. அப்போ என்ன ஆகுது, பணப்புழக்கத்தில் வருது. தெர் இஸ் மணி, தெர் இஸ் கேஷ் ஃப்ளோ. ஸோ ப்ரொடக்ஷன் தேர்பை இன்க்ரீசஸ். லோன்லேயே இருந்தால் ப்ரொடக்ஷன் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆகாது. Manufacturers and wholesale traders cannot increase their sales without selling goods on credit basis. But credit sales may lead to locking up of capital. As a result, production may also be reduced. So at times, bank what they do is they transform the loan to be paid after a certain period into cash. This cash can be immediately used for business activities. Sixth point, finance to government. Government is acting as the promoter of industries in an underdeveloped countries for which finance is needed for it. So what does the government do? Underdeveloped countries, nobody is willing to take up any business, or they are not able to build factories or industries. So the government takes it up. The government starts investing new projects. They invest money in new projects. They build new factories. Banks provide long-term credit to government by investing their funds in government securities, and short-term finance by purchasing treasury bills. So from the government, the banks buy the securities. Each security will have some value. The treasury bills will have value. So the government gives the treasury bill or the securities to the bank, and in turn the bank gives money to the government to start with new projects. So this is how the banks help in financing the government. Next one, employment generation. After the nationalization of big banks, banking industry has grown up to a great extent. In 1969, there was nationalization of banks. The banks were no longer owned by the private. It was all taken up by the government. That is what is called as nationalization of banks, which happened in 1969. Banks branches are opened frequently, which leads to the creation of new employment opportunities. So there are so many bank branches spread across the country. So more people get employment through these banks. Not only through that, when a bank gives loan to someone, they start investing and they start a new project, and more people are employed even in that. So banks help in employment generation. Last one, banks promote entrepreneurship. By introducing new entrepreneurs to take up the well-formulated projects and provision of counseling services like technical and managerial guidance is also given by bank. In recent days, banks have assumed the role of developing entrepreneurship, particularly in developing countries like India. So they train the entrepreneurs, they give them counseling. Banks also, when entrepreneurs go for loan, they give some counseling, they give some suggestions whether to start that business, whether that will be profitable. So banks promote entrepreneurship. These are the roles of commercial banks in economic development. This is a very, very important question. I am repeating it again and again. So please study it, girls. Then a small part, non-banking financial institution. This is just 2 or 3 lines. With this, I will stop the class. What are non-banking financial institution? We have some popular non-banking financial institutions or non-banking financial corporations in India. They are India Bulls. Then you have the Tata Capital, LIC, DHFL. All these are non-banking financial institution. They are also called as NBFI, a non-banking financial institution, NBFI. So what is a non-banking financial institution? A non-banking financial institution, NBFI, or non-bank financial company. What is NBFC? Non-bank financial company is a financial institution. It is again a financial institution that does not have full banking license. Non-banking financial institution also, they function like the bank, but they do not have full banking license or is not supervised by the central bank. They are not supervised by the central bank. So what is a non-banking financial institution? A non-banking financial institution, NBFI, or non-bank financial company, NBFC, is a financial institution that does not have a full banking license or is not supervised by the central bank. I think we can stop our lessons with this. Okay. So what did I teach today? First, I introduced banking, introduction for banking. then the historical development of banking, then we saw the history of Indian banks, then I explained or I gave the definition for commercial banks, then we saw the functions of commercial banks, then we saw the role of commercial banks in economic development of a country. Lastly, we saw the NBFI or the non-banking financial institution. So the homework for today is define commercial bank. Then what is credit creation? Then explain the role of commercial banks in economic development. Write the mechanism of credit creation by commercial banks. Then the last question is elucidate the functions of commercial banks. I will post the homework in the Google Classroom as well as the WhatsApp. Girls, so far I have given you unit test. I have given you 4 assignments, 3 unit tests. Okay, please complete it and please submit it immediately. Next week I will give you 2 more tests. Okay, so be prepared for that. Thank you, girls.